Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Barry Beck.
All right. All right. Wow.
How's it going?
Nice to see you here.
Barry.
I've never been this mic'd up in my entire life. I got all kinds of hardware going on here.
Barry, welcome. Thank you for being our guest today.
Hi, I'm looking at all these familiar faces here. Let's see.
How you been? Been good?
Very good. I'm so glad to be here.
You were pretty busy today. Did you come back from a pretty... Didn't you have a... I mean, you were pretty busy today. I'll just leave it like that.
Generally very busy. We had an interview with an interesting periodical today and a couple other things going on. But I do want to say I'm so honored to be here. I know maybe a little off topic here, but honored to be here. It's so authentic and so cool. And I know Steve Case has spoken here before. He's one of my mentors and was named as one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the world by Michael Eisner. And I know David Bradley's going to be speaking here, another incredible entrepreneur. So I'm so honored to be here, and it's so great. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. We're very honored to have you, especially with the success of Bluemercury. But before we start, we always like to start with you on a personal note. So talk about where you're born, where you're raised, what did your parents do, because that's really important.
Yep.
And perhaps talk about your first entrepreneurial experience as a 10-year-old.
Well, I could go on for about an hour about that.
Start with you.
I was born in Alexandria, Virginia, but I'm really originally from the Philadelphia area. That's what I say. My mother and father are from the Philadelphia area. My father was at law school at George Washington, and he was down here. And I lived here for 2 years, and I had an older brother who lived here till he was 4 years old. And then we moved back to Philadelphia, where I was raised. My father became an intellectual property attorney. My mother was a school teacher. We were raised in a, I would say, very lower middle class background. My father, his father died when my father was very young. My father was about 10 years old, about the same age as my son here. My father was on never told this before, but my father was on a Boy Scout trip to California. He was staying at his uncle's house, and he was sitting there on the couch, and the phone rang, and my father picked up the phone, and the voice on the other side of the phone said, "Stuart, your father died today." And my dad said he didn't know what to do. He said he was 10, so he knew enough that he should get off the couch and turn off the television. And that's what he did. He turned off the television. He sat there and he waited for his uncle to come and get him. And when the uncle got home, he said, "Listen, you have to go home, and there's 3 boys in the family. It's a long time ago. You have to raise your brothers and be the man of the house." And my father was a brilliant student. He was accepted at MIT. He couldn't go because he had to stay in Philadelphia and bag groceries at the local A&P, which was our sort of giant food. He did that. And he ended up going to Drexel University. If anyone's heard of that, it's a sort of the Philadelphia engineering school, and which is really an incredible contrast to my mother, who actually grew up as one of the wealthiest families of Philadelphia, probably 2 or 3 top wealthiest families in Philadelphia. My mother's father was the manufacturer of Izod Lacoste. If anyone knows what that is, it's the little alligator. That may not be a popular brand today, but when we were kids, that was all the rage. He was a wildly successful business guy. I hear these stories about him going to meetings and poker night and saying, "Hey, should we launch this new car company called Subaru? I mean, they were in these, they were like, "Nah, who needs another car company?" I mean, this is the level at which my mother's father was operating. And, my mom and dad met at Drexel. They got married, and after they got married, my grandfather, my mother's dad, said to my dad, "I want you to come in and join Izod Lacoste, the Lacoste alligator company." And, maybe unfortunately for me, my father said to my grandfather, "I'd rather be poor than ever work for my father-in-law." And so,
Yeah.
interestingly enough, so that was what it was. And we'd never had any money growing up. But interestingly, one tidbit about that is that but my mother's sister's husband leapt right into the business. It was a silver plate for him. He went right in. Mm-hmm. And so I was always tangential to that side of the family. Yeah. This is kind of a funny story, but we would have something called Cousins Club. I don't know what that is, but all the cousins would get together twice a year. And I would see my cousins, and they were, going to Colorado to ski at a place called like Telluride. Now, I'd never been on a plane before. So I had no idea I was living in Philadelphia, why would you go to Colorado and ski? You could go to the Poconos, and I'd never done that, but I knew that was something that was possible. It was an hour away, and you get a ticket, and it's a lot of money, it's $30 or something. You could do that. So I just was really always tangential to this sort of what I felt it wasn't about the financial aspect of it, but it was what I perceived as an independence that this other side of my family had that we never had.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There we have it. I mean, that's the story, man. So
just want to know if I ski now. I was skiing last week in Colorado. Yeah. The end of the story is yes, I now ski in Colorado, I guess.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So I mean, I always like to loop in sort of like, you grew up you were born in Philadelphia, you grew up in Philadelphia. So more important question, especially here. I mean, I guess you're an Eagles fan, huh? I mean, after the
I am.
Super Bowl.
Go Birds. It was a big, big year for us in Philadelphia, plus Villanova.
Yeah.
Which is...
Villanova, right.
Villanova. It's a big year for Philadelphia.
I just found out my neighbor next door, their kid's going to Villanova, like playing in the basketball team. So,
he's probably a very good basketball player.
Probably, yeah, he is actually. Probably have to root for them next year. I wanted to go before the whole Bluemercury story. I mean, you've touched a little bit about it, but I wanted to go about your experience with a company. I mean, you're a serial entrepreneur. I mean, Bluemercury was not your first success. It was this other company here that it was at U.S. Maintenance, right? It's a contract service business serving national retail chains, and it was acquired by a Fortune 500 company. So the question is that what did you learn there that kind of prepared you to sort of build this empire with Bluemercury? Sort
of my entrepreneurial path. I was actually just reading about Mark Benioff from Salesforce.com, obviously dramatically more successful entrepreneur than me, but it's similar in the sense that I was reading his bio, he's just business after business after business. We was in high school and junior high school, just starting and looking for scale. And so I was starting businesses, I saw this, I wanted this independence. I wanted to start a company. So I was 10 years old. I started shoveling snow for every home in my neighborhood. The difference is I had contracts at 10 years old with every home in my neighborhood. And I provided them a 10% discount if they guaranteed to go with me. But I always wanted, I always was looking for the next opportunity, more scale. Then it was $20 a driveway. Then I started detailing cars the next year. And I said, well, I could get $150 if I detail a car. I was living in this, basically what happened was my grandfather helped our family. So he moved us into the worst street in the right school district. So I was always tangential to in the main line in the wealthy area of Philadelphia. And I could, sell goods and services to this community. So I was washing cars. And then I started a company called American Landscaping. And I think one of the things that really I hit on was my junior, senior of high school. I started a company called American Window Washing. And I realized I could wash windows for these wealthy mainline mansions. And I could charge by the window pane, $3 for the lower floor, $5 for the upper floor. All of a sudden, I was in high school, and I was getting $400 a house and doing 5 houses a day. I was making $2,000 a day at cruise. I was doing marketing. I started to make about, my senior of high school, about $100,000 a year. So I didn't really process that. I wasn't really processing that, but when I told that to my parents, they said, well, geez, you're making more than all the lawyers and doctors we know. This is a long time ago. And so I think at that point, being a serial entrepreneur, I don't know if I'd say that, but I was hooked. And then you're asking me about U.S. maintenance. And so always, I don't think that I was thinking about this idea of operating at scale, but I knew I always wanted more, bigger, national footprint. I mean, that's what I really wanted. And my junior year of college, I attended Cornell University. I was on a break, and I drove by an office building, and this is what I do. I talk to people. I stopped, and I talked to this guy, and I said, what do you do? He says, oh, this set of office buildings, I provide integrated maintenance services. I'm like, okay, cool. What's that? He says, well, I make $400,000. He's like, I heard 400,000. I was like, okay, I like that. I had no idea what it is. What do you do? He says, well, I do the lock, if they get locked out, or electrical services, small construction projects. And I said, okay, I'm hooked. And junior year of college, I started a company called US Maintenance, which ultimately was a wildly successful company. It's what brought me to Washington, D.C. We sold that company to MCOR, which is a Fortune 500 company. Ultimately became almost $1 billion company in its own right. And basically what we did was I went to companies like Starbucks and I said, well, how do you think about your maintenance? You have thousands of stores nationwide. And they said, well, we want to make the coffee, but if we're locked out of our store in Alaska or we have a leak or a flood. And so basically I said, well, how much do you spend in this region? And then I heard the big number. We spent $4 million in the region. I said, so I said, I was just a kid in sweatpants, like in college. And I said, well, if I could do it for $2 million, could I get the job? And they said, if you can save us $2 million a year, you got the account. And the problem is I went back to my dorm room, which is like there was 2 chairs and a desk. I didn't even have a computer. I had to share a shared computer downstairs in the shared area. But the rest was history. I mean, we built that company. We were based in Philadelphia. I moved down to Washington, D.C. And that was the business where I really learned the language of business and how hard it can be, raising money, running out of money. I ran out of money twice. We almost went out of business. And I really learned that starting a company sometimes can feel like eating glass. It was very difficult. But I learned that, one of the most important things, which is your cash flow, is the lifeblood of any company.
Wow, I mean, $100,000 in your senior year in high school, that's amazing. But I really like that. Like, you were just trying to get to the higher, I like that, how you were.
It was just always successive, trying to just get to the next level.
Yeah. And so now when you finally sold that company, now this is sort of like the beginning formation of Bluemercury. And so I wanted to ask about that. You and Marla had found a boutique, 2 boutiques in Georgetown called FX, right? And you pretty much took over that and then rebranded to be now called Bluemercury, right?
Yeah, I'm going to just bridge that gap. So I was building that company. We hadn't sold that company yet. I was here in Washington, D.C., and I wasn't satisfied. The business was wildly successful. I was making, by the way, I graduated college. Now I was making $1 million a year. So my first year out of college, I was making $1 million a year. That was my salary. That was pretty good. That was going great. But I was really unhappy. I was already a millionaire. I was 21 years old. I was a millionaire, and I was so unhappy. It was just, I didn't like the business. It wasn't fulfilling for me. Every day I'd come to work, and there was a list of 1,000 problems from all these companies. And I called my brother, my partner in Philadelphia, and I said, I'm so unhappy. I'm not fulfilled. What do I do? He goes, no. Put your bank account statement under your pillow at night, and through osmosis, you'll get happy. I just put the bank account statement in, like wafting, you'll become happy. But the truth is it only lasted so long, and I said, let's sell the company. I went to sell the company, and in that meeting to sell, it was an investment banking presentation, is where I met my wife, Marla. And we got to talking, and during one of these meetings, it was quite a long process, and I don't want to go through all the detail. I'm sure you're going to ask me more about it. But we did ultimately come across 2 stores in Georgetown that were selling cosmetics. And we knew that most women at that time, cosmetics were only, you have to understand, cosmetics at that time, we were the first, before Sephora, to put cosmetics in freestanding neighborhoods where people couldn't even understand that. We went to see the captain of the industry, the Bill Gates of the industry, Leonard Lauder, and he was like, no, we're happy. We love the department stores. It's great. This is what we're used to. But we thought, and we looked at the industry, and we saw that everything had been pulled out of department stores. Kitchen goods by Williams-Sonoma, furniture by Pottery Barn. And we said, well, why not cosmetics? And I would say it was like a light bulb went off in my head, but that moment was really fireworks. And we bought those 2 stores, changed the name of those stores to Bluemercury, and that was really that aha moment.
Yeah.
That we really switched and changed the store's name and started rolling out stores.
So what I find very interesting is, and we're in a room full of entrepreneurs who like to, chew on glass, and basically. I
don't know anyone who likes to do that. Unfortunately, it's like being a boxer. If you want to make money being a boxer, you're going to get hit in the face a lot.
Yeah. So why? So the question is, like, you could have started a brand by yourself from the ground, and then do that versus buy into an existing business? Like, why did you guys decide to buy into an existing business?
Well, fast forward to just 30 days ago, a good friend of mine is friends with Bill Gates, and I said, hey, if I started another company, what advice does Bill have for me? So we went to Bill, and Bill Gates came back to my friend. They went to college together, and he said, no more paper clips. I was like, that's what I get from Bill Gates? No more paper clips? What the heck does that mean? And then I asked him to go back, and what Bill said was, hard to start from scratch. If you can find a little small fledgling business that's going and start from there, it's always better. And some of the greatest American companies, let's go through them. Let's see. McDonald's, the McDonald's brothers had a store. They couldn't see the national play, the national footprint. This is what I focus on, national footprint. And then Ray Kroc came along and said national footprint. Blockbuster Video, you may laugh at that, but it's one of the greatest American companies, started by Wayne Huizenga, and so many entrepreneurs came out of that. 4 stores in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Anyone ever hear of Il Journal? Anybody? Starbucks? It was Il Journal. 4 coffee stores.
Wow.
And the founder of Starbucks came in there, bought Il Journal, just like Bluemercury. We hated the name, EFX, the store that we bought. We didn't understand what that meant. And he changed the name of the company to Starbucks, and the rest is history. So if you can start with something, even just an idea, it's better. Going from version 0 to version 1 is really hard when you're making software, very, very buggy. V1 to V2 is hard too, but nothing like version 0 to version 1.
I think a great way to start is to find businesses that have terrible names and then attach a great name to it.
Well, that's a great example. Anyone here ever hear of the company called Bourbon? It was a company that, these aha moments, talk about aha moments. Bourbon was a company that was a location check-in app where people could meet their friends. People would go meet their friends. It wasn't working. The company was gone bankrupt. And then the entrepreneur said, oh my God, what's so interesting? The thing that people use most is the photo sharing. They changed the name of the company to Instagram right before they went bankrupt. And of course, the rest is history. They sold the company a year later for $1 billion.
These are amazing stories. I wanted to talk about when you guys started. Obviously, it was founded in 1999 with you and your wife as an online shopping website, right, for luxury cosmetics. It was online at first, right?
Correct.
And then, so the question is because most businesses here, they're like, hey, we're gonna go e-commerce. We're gonna go through a scalable model. So you guys decided to go brick and mortar, right?
Yes.
So explain that. Like, what was sort of the thinking?
This is sort of the true story of what happened with Bluemercury. So I tried to sell my business. I met my wife in this meeting. I said, why are we in this low-tech business? I had a friend of mine, it's a true story, a guy named Scott who went to Cornell, and he sold a bunch of email addresses. This is the first internet boom. A lot of people here aren't old enough to know what that was. The first internet boom, and he sold a bunch of email addresses for $10 million. So remember, I'm always looking for that next thing. I was like, oh my gosh, we should be in the internet business. So I said to Marla, hey, why don't we go and sell something online? We landed on cosmetics. We raised $1 million in 2 weeks. We were off to the races. In fact, the guy who spoke here, Steve Case, the founder of AOL, people who don't know who AOL was, they're the Google of their day. I mean, he was a legend. Put money into Bluemercury, invested in us with just an idea. The problem was we had 2 major problems. We spent almost all of our money, $850,000 of the $1 million, launching the website. We had $150,000 left, and we had a problem. Nobody was shopping on our website. No, it was dial-up. Does anyone even know what dial-up is? You have to have dial a number, and it would connect it to the internet, and it was so slow you couldn't shop, and it just didn't work. No one was shopping online, and the other problem was, although I told my investors I could get these brands to sell to me, they wouldn't sell to me. And that's how I found this store. I actually was gray marketing merchandise from the store in Georgetown. And the problem was, it was embarrassing for me. When I had to face my investors, there was 2 problems with that. They were giving me merchandise to sell, these brands. The problem with that was they were very powerful in the relationship. They could just turn off the spigot. I'd be out of business overnight. To tell my investors, hey, we're bankrupt. And the other problem is when I got really close to that business, I realized they were almost bankrupt too. And that's when I bought that company. And that's what really changed everything. Interestingly enough, this whole model, we became we became a Harvard Business School case study. I don't know if everybody knows that. And we go up to Harvard now and teach the case. And we were credited by Harvard Business School with coining the phrase clicks and bricks. We were actually, because of that whole sort of little bit of a pickle we were in, we became the first clicks and bricks business in America. And that's what happens. We actually had both of these things, not because of want, but because of need.
And so almost 200 stores later, you guys are a thriving empire. What I really liked about that is that you guys, so the secret sauce here is that, you created shops that were in neighborhoods, right? And then you flush them with like experts, right? So that anybody who walks in the store, they can feel like they're welcome, right? They don't have to be like prejudged with the type of bag they have. You wanted to have some authentic, honest gurus, right, to help your customers.
I think that we early on surmised that people weren't happy with the beauty buying experience at the department store. My mom would go to the department store and people would look her up and down. What kind of handbag does she have? What kind of shoes do they have? Also, the current, even today, which is so funny, the model at the department store is you have to shop by brand. So if my mom would go to the department store and if the Bobbi Brown rep wasn't there, she had to match her shade with another brand. And then on the other hand, there was the drugstore, CVS, but they sold lower end brands that weren't luxury brands, and there was no sampling. So basically, they didn't realize it. They left it sort of wide open for me. And we just raced in to fill the gap. And we put these stores in, and this was always our strategy. And we really had a plan for this really, really early on. This was one thing a lot of things happened serendipitously for us, but hope isn't a strategy. Mm-hmm. This was not hoping. We knew that we wanted to be in the neighborhoods where our customers lived and work, and this has always been a core thing for us. And one other thing I would say, because it's important, because we have a lot of our people here today, that the people are really the most important part of our business. They're the most knowledgeable beauty experts in the industry, and that is really the key to our secret sauce. And this is why companies buy companies, why there is M&A, mergers and acquisitions. Because why didn't just Google make Facebook? They could have just created, you can't. It's this secret sauce and this entrepreneurial spirit, and that's what's going on inside our company. And this is really what I think Macy saw when they bought the company.
So actually, this is a really good topic, is the whole talent acquisition. So what is sort of your strategy, how you get the best in the industry to work for you versus, your competitors?
I think, first of all, we pay the most in our stores. Okay. And this has always been, you're laughing, but this is, and it's funny, but the truth is this has always been our strategy, even early on. So when we came into the industry, sort of the so-called experts said, hey, you can't pay a lot for your people, and they have to be part-time workers. There's no career path, there's no benefits. And I had a theory. I said, well, wait a minute, what happens if I give them a career path, full-time work and benefits, and actually pay them more? And the truth is, what happened was we actually ended up retaining their knowledge, their expertise. We have people, some people here I see here today have been with us for 15 years, 12 years. I don't know. How many years? 16 years. I mean, there was actually a point since we acquired the first store. Think about this. It was a weird thing. Like, we were in investment banking presentations with Goldman Sachs, and they were like, who's the longer? You're the oldest. I was like, actually, I'm not we had employees that worked for the company longer than me, that they'd been there before we bought. They were acqui-hires for us, and then they stay with the company. So this has really been the secret sauce for us, is really our people.
It's taking care of your employees, and because I think that was very disruptive in the industry, where you're actually hiring people full-time instead of part-time, right? And that was a really risky move, right?
Well, people, look, the so-called experts, one of the problems that I had was that everybody I talked to in the industry told me I had no idea what I was doing. And that, you're not in retail, you don't know how it works, you have no idea what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I'm a little bit of a maverick. For people who know me, I think that's an understatement. And I said, you're right, I'm gonna just figure it out. And because I didn't understand how the business worked, I had no idea what I was doing, I just completely reinvented the business. Mm-hmm. And it really took an outsider to break it and reinvent it, and sometimes it takes that. And a lot of people are gonna tell you no, or you don't understand, or you're dumb. But, through the process, you'll succeed.
Talking about outsiders that are just sort of disrupting an industry, I mean, let's talk about the 800-pound gorilla, Amazon here, right? Amazon started, the dot-bomb era, 20 years ago. No one ever knew that it would be where it's at right now. How has Amazon affected you guys?
I certainly didn't know. I was eating Mexican food in downtown Bethesda, and Jeff Bezos, who we know, and we've spoken at his conferences, had come along and chose Bluemercury to be their first partner for beauty in the world. And I was having Mexican food in Bethesda, and I turned to a friend of mine, I said, I don't know, Amazon, I want to partner with those guys, take a little bit of, and my friend said, no, you should try them. I think they're going to be something someday. In the end, we did partner with them. We still have a partnership with Amazon today. Everybody says that Amazon can put them out of business. It has never really affected us. I think the one thing that Jeff talks about a lot, which is this idea of last mile delivery. I live in Bethesda. There's just this white van that's just circling my house all day long. It's replenished. They're dropping stuff off of my doorstep. The reason why, there's a bunch of reasons why Bluemercury, I feel, is really insulated from Amazon. Number one is, most importantly, we're already in the last mile. The strategy that we set out is that we are in the neighborhoods where our customers live their lives. We're more convenient than Amazon, number one. Number two, the beauty business really, really lends itself well to stores for several reasons. Number one, product proliferation. There's so much new product on the market. Starting a company's never been easier than it is today. There's new products coming out every day. Bluemercury, we make sense of it all for you. Number two is the beauty buying journey is really complex. So the average woman or male is not going to go try to solve their beauty, major beauty problems like acne or rosacea online. They're going to come into stores, and we have the most knowledgeable experts in the industry. We're convenient. We're in your neighborhood, where you live your life. Obviously, my job's not complete until I put a Bluemercury on every single corner in every single city in the country. And that's why I'm still running the business today, because I want to do that.
Right next to every Starbucks store, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I'm down in my, look, we have stores in Brentwood and New Canaan and Manhattan Beach. You're surfing, and then you need sunscreen. I mean, this is what it is. I'm in Bethesda, down where I live. Clearly, I live in Bethesda. Talk about it a lot. I'm there 3 times a day. Walking by the Bluemercury store, not because I own it, because I get to run to the Apple store because I need headphones because my son, who's out front here, lost his headphones, or I got to get my coffee in the morning. So we really put these stores right in the community. In fact, in the cities, our clients are never more than 5 miles away from their store, and in the suburbs, never more than a 15-minute drive time. And that's sort of how we think about where we're going to place our stores.
And I'm assuming you guys use a lot of big data to figure out where to place your new stores.
We do. I know that's an important question, and everybody wants to talk about big data. So yes, when I'm thinking about stores, everyone says, oh, Barry's one of the great retail real estate guys in the country. And everyone thinks, I use a lot of data. Yes. So when I go, next week I'm going to look at a store in Westchester, New York. Yeah, am I going there armed with legions of data? Household income, psychographic, demographic. But the truth is, you know what the best test for me is? What I call the Starbucks test. That's what I do. The anthropological sort of way of doing it is I look and I go there and I sit for 3 hours at the Starbucks. Do I see my client? Like I did that guy when I was in college with the $400,000 business. I talked to people. Hey, are we convenient? If you had a Bluemercury here, would you shop here? Is it more convenient than the next competitor? Where do you live? Do you have to drive by the store? And so we really get into the details when we're putting our stores there. And the truth is, this may sound strange, but the truth is the bigger Bluemercury gets, the smaller I think, actually, not the bigger I think. That I got to think smaller, looking at the granular detail in the data. We're a very data-driven business. I think that's one of the reasons why we're successful.
So I like that Starbucks test. You guys are going to do some major expansion in Seattle then? Because that's
Love Seattle. What a great market.
Every block is like a Starbucks there. So I wanted to, because this is actually a very important question. A lot of people had asked me, let's ask Barry this. Do you think Amazon's going to be moving here? And if so, is that good? I mean, it could be. Is that great for the area in terms of DC Tech? And maybe is that good for you guys?
Well, first of all, I have no empirical basis to decide or to tell you whether they will or they won't. I have heard that they are looking in the area and looking very seriously in Maryland. But my instinct is that they're going to come here. They'd come to Virginia because it happens to be a more business-friendly environment. But I have a very specific theory about development. In my neighborhood, people hate to see houses being knocked down and a new home being put up. There's a very specific feeling about it. My feeling is, and I have a rule of thumb, which is development on your block is always good. What? Yeah, development on your block is always good. So if Amazon comes here and you're worried about them competing with, in the end, there's going to be more opportunity for everybody. A rising tide lifts all boats. I mean, it would be, if you own a home here and Amazon comes here, you won. You're a winner. Just right there, you're a winner. Yeah. So I think that Amazon coming to the market's great. And I hope they come.
Okay, great. No, we're hoping that they come. I mean, that will definitely help.
Well, that would change startup grind.
Yes,
It'd be
exactly.
like we take the 2 more floors up, right?
Startup polish. No, startup shine, I guess. So I wanted to get into the Macy's acquisition. This is something where, a lot of startups here, they're always trying to figure out, how do you position yourself to, they want to make their company to be the next IPO company, right? The next AOL, the next Google. But more realistically, what ends up happening is, hey, we may be an acqui-hire target, right? But I wanted to talk about when you guys did Bluemercury, how did that conversation happen with Macy's? And was Macy's before Macy's? Were you guys thinking, hey, it would be nice if we got acquired by a company like Macy's versus like an e-commerce company or something?
There's a lot to unpack
there.
Yeah,
okay.
I never looked at Macy's.
Yeah.
They weren't on my radar at all. For me, and this is just my take, I always looked at Neiman Marcus. I shopped at Neiman Marcus. They carried these luxury brand cosmetics. And in my mind, I wanted to put them out of business. That was what was driving me. Sort of a Tiger Woods mentality, which is, we wanted to drive his competition into the ground. They were the ones, in Washington, D.C., the store in Chevy Chase, I surrounded them and cut them off. That's what I wanted to do. I never looked at Macy's. And then one day, Terry Lundgren, who's Mr. American Retail. He's the handsome face of American retail. He got on TV and says, we're under attack at our front door. And I guess what I realized at that point, he was talking about, I opened up a store in Chelsea, which was this cool neighborhood, this unbelievable store next to the number 2 Trader Joe's in America, on the corner of this amazing store. And I never thought that I was right around the corner from Herald Square. And what was happening is that they saw us coming in on that, just really encroaching on their business. We had a lot of inquiries. That's what happens. It's a natural, organic process. You start to have a lot of inquiries. We had a lot of inbound inquiries. People were interested in buying the company. And we hired Goldman Sachs to sort of sort out what we were going to do, how should we think about it. They're brilliant strategic thinkers. They helped us think about it. I think the 3 things, sort of when I thought about selling the business, there were a few things I really wanted to accomplish in my life. I think one was to really expand the Bluemercury footprint. I wanted to open a lot of stores. 2 is I'm a sort of Buffettologist. So I always wanted to create this consumer monopoly. Warren Buffett always talks about that, Coca-Cola, right? You go to any restaurant, any bar, they have to have Coca-Cola or Budweiser. So these brands, Heinz Ketchup. And so I always wanted to create that. And I think the last thing was that I really wanted to solidify our position and create a national brand, an iconic luxury brand. And so by, this partnership with Macy's really helped me do that. And at the same time, it was really an amazing recognition of the innovation and value that we created. But I will say that the irony of selling to a department store isn't lost on me, because these are the guys I was trying to put out of business. And then they had this, obviously they were way bigger than us. This is one of the most storied American companies at Macy's. They have a Thanksgiving Day parade. This is a company that owns Thanksgiving. They could come in and buy us, and they did. So
what do you think Macy's bought you, though? Right? What was the reason why they bought you?
I think the decision was easy for them, and I think there was just really a couple of things going on there. I think number one, 15 years ago, 90% of all luxury cosmetics were sold in the department stores. 90%. By 2014, it was down to 60%, and it was shrinking fast. And so basically Macy's said, well, God, if the action's in these small neighborhood stores, we want to get in on that action. And for them to buy us for a number, I'm not going to say the number, but that number is, that's money they have in their back pocket. They can just buy that. And this was a core signature business for them. The department stores, if you go to virtually any department store in America today, I know if anyone here who knows, they can name 2. I can think of 2 department stores that don't have cosmetics on the first floor. It's a core signature business, almost a gateway drug for every department store. So if they could win by just a quick tuck-in acquisition, I think that was easy for them. By the way, all the Fortune 500 companies are looking to grow, and they're always looking for something fresh. And by the way, it's not just acquire, but they can, this idea of acqui-hire. So they hire, they not only did they acquire Bluemercury, but at the same time they got Barry and Marla for free. We're not free, but we came along with it.
Right,
so that they could get us in there thinking differently, growing the business and working for them. I mean, it's really a double win for them.
Right. And also they're able to buy into, your distribution firepower, R&D infrastructure, you guys.
Well, we were able to get it. They have a West Coast technology lab.
Yeah.
And you have to understand, just my defense for people, there was a lot of articles that came out after we saw, Barry sold out. I mean, we were homegrown business in Georgetown. So of course you hear that, and I used to be in the stores. I knew everybody. We'd have these parties, and I would know all the clients by name. But the truth is, it was very hard. Eating glass, I mean, I had to build and scale every function of the business myself. Accounting, HR. I mean, why should I have to do that if I don't have to? I'd rather spend my time creating great products, opening new amazing stores, finding new initiatives. And so these guys were able to bring those resources to bear, and then I could really focus on what really mattered the most, which is our customers.
You were quoted, I forgot which publication, but you had said that you found parallels with Macy's acquisition of Bluemercury as Walmart's purchase of Jet.com.
Did I say that? I must have said, wow, I said that. Because Jet.com sold for $3.5 billion.
Big difference, right?
But it's true. I mean, look, Walmart spoke a lot about that. They paid $3.5 billion for Jet, but they got Mark Laurie.
Yeah.
And Mark Laurie came into Walmart and just really changed the way that they were thinking about entrepreneurship, innovation, and all this other stuff. And so a little bit, I think that I do see parallels there, except there's a difference in scale.
Yeah.
But you got me looking for the next thing now, right?
But it sounds like they're buying in because of that. They're bringing talent in for innovative ideas to bring into the company. And so the question would be like, I mean, as you see, do you see like as Amazon gets bigger, do you think that there's going to be more M&A activities of like these big retailers trying to buy into innovative
I think there's no question. People are going to be looking for a competitive advantage. As Amazon moves into every single category, people are going to be looking for a competitive advantage. And these young, small companies are continuing to innovate. I mean, my son's here again, and I should have invested in all the things he was looking at. And early on, I mean, he was Amazon. Now he's investing in Bitcoin and 3D printing and all these things. So this young generation is just more nimble. They grew up with the internet in the palm of their hand. They're just so much more versed, these sort of digital natives. And these big companies, General Electrics of the world, Walmart's, Macy's, these companies need this innovation. So yeah, although one thing that we did talk about earlier, I don't think you can't build your company to sell it. You can't do that. You have to try to build a great company. And it's only, the reason why we were able to sell Bluemercury and do well with it is because we didn't need to. We didn't have to. We could have kept growing. Some people said I should have. I recently saw there was a valuation on Bluemercury of more than $1 billion. Boy, do I look dumb. So, but you know what I mean? That we could have kept growing, and that's it. So you can't just bring on talent to hope to sell the talent or build a company and hope to be acquired. You got to build a great company. Hopefully cash flow positive, because it makes life a lot less painful.
You had said some really awesome tweetable moments. So hashtag Startup Grind at Bluemercury. Do you have a Twitter handle?
I don't.
You don't? Okay, but at Bluemercury, we're working on that, right? Okay. I wanted to kind of switch gears and actually talk.
They actually probably specifically keep me off Twitter.
Okay.
Oh, they don't want me to end up like the Twitter in chief.
Yeah, exactly.
The Twitterer in chief? Is that what he is?
So I wanted to switch gears to talk about the products you guys had launched. So more specifically, the M61, which again that was a while back, 2006, and then 2017, London Aster. Why did you? So first of all, explain what M61 and then Loon and Aster is, and then why you started those.
These are proprietary brands that we started inside Bluemercury, something we really wanted to do. This idea of consumer monopoly, create brands inside the company that you could only get from us. And with some of the people that are working, I know that are here, that work on the brands with us today. So the truth is, we have a very sophisticated customer. And so I just want to say that, not that I say that these products are amazing, but our client is very sophisticated. These products are next to some of the greatest iconic luxury brands in the world. And if they weren't really great, our customers would not be coming back and repeat purchasing. And that's how we measure success in retail, which is the repeat purchase, or what we call comp sales growth. But what really happened was back immediately, almost simultaneously or immediately after the Great Recession, we saw this trend of our customers coming in looking for natural products. What was going on? We were studying the data. We saw that the millennials, by the way, I think I already said this, there's more than 70 million Americans under the age of 18. A third of American population is under the age of 30, coming and looking for natural products. The problem was the natural product offerings on the market were terrible. They smelled bad, the packaging was bad, and they actually didn't work. A little bit of a problem. The other problem, the other side, was the doctor brands. These doctor brands had harmful ingredients, parabens, sulfates, and the clients were starting to learn that, that this was bad for them. There was more studies coming out, and people realized obviously the epidermis is the largest organ in the body, and that they had to be careful not just what they put in their body, but what they put on their body. And so we set out to merge these sort of two worlds of natural, powerful products with powerful ingredients as well. Of course, we were told that was impossible, especially us trying to stabilize vitamin C, which everyone said we couldn't do that, it was impossible. And then we actually found a way to do it through ferulic acid. And we put our guys to the test, one of our laboratories, like the guy that we worked with at Yale. And then we launched, so this was really the creation of M61, which has been a runaway success, a cult brand success. I know people know that one of our products I think we gave out today, Power Glow Peel, is really one of the best-selling products at Bluemercury. It's really an annuity SKU. It's like our Coca-Cola. We sell one every 8 seconds. So it's an amazing product for us. And then later on, we actually launched a color cosmetics line, Lunaster, which was also a natural, paraben-free color cosmetics line that could sort of have women leaving the house feeling polished and powerful in under 5 minutes. We'd spent our sort of life, because we're sort of a really authentic brand, we only had makeup artist brands, but these brands by Trish McEvoy, Laura Mercier, Norris are really hard to apply. We used to rank our customers 1, 2, and 3. 1, you use one product, you put on a lipstick. 2, you can do lipstick and an eyeliner. 3, you could do a full face. 75% of the customers that came to Bluemercury said that they really weren't comfortable putting on their makeup. And so we launched this other brand, and these two natural brands have been runaway successes for us. And best-selling brands at Bluemercury. How was that? Woof, that was fast.
No, what I like about that is, as we're building our companies, we're building, ultimately products. What I liked about you is you built these products based on principle, right? I mean, you even have a list of 100 banned ingredients that everyone knows that they should never be on Bluemercury product, which is kind of amazing, because this is kind of your mandate, like, don't touch these. But then the rest of the industry, they put that into the cosmetic products.
It was a problem for us, because when we showed those to the lab early on, they're like, well, all these lists of ingredients, we can't even make product. And we forced them to do that. And again, we didn't come from that world of making products. So when people told us no, we're like, just call us when you got it figured out. And we just ground on them, grinding, startup grind.
Right.
Yeah, and grinding on these guys and making them do it, and they ultimately did it.
But I mean, ultimately, when you have those constraints, that forces, folks to be more innovative, right? I mean, that just by that very nature of putting these constraints, 100 of banned ingredients, that's what basically happened, right? I mean, that
was basically the genesis of the line, was this 100 banned ingredients that we couldn't put in there.
I mean, I guess, because the thing is like, one of the things, like, one of the sages, they always say, like, when you put entrepreneurs through, like, you give them restraints, like, you give them constraints, they think outside the box, and then that's the beginning of new innovative products, right?
The reason why you have to think outside the box is because you have to think outside the box.
Right.
Mostly, this innovation comes from being cash-strapped. I mean, that's really what drives most entrepreneurs. My first company, one of the reasons why we were so innovative is because we had to be. We had no money. So we had to figure out ways to run our business and be more innovative and make money faster. And that's really, even at Bluemercury, it's why we kept breaking the mold and breaking the mold. That's really one of the key things.
And so what I really like about that, when you're breaking the mold, this technology hub, this innovation hub that you have, the flagship store, right? Are you getting a lot of your innovative ideas there? And I know that a lot of your men products are coming out of
Yeah.
the works there. So talk about that.
We launched a flagship store in New York. It's very exciting for us. How that came about is that, I always wanted to find a way. I spent a lot of time in Midtown in New York City. Everybody knows I love New York. I'm there all the time. The beauty business is really headquartered in New York City. And I wanted to find a way to put a flagship store in Midtown. The problem was it really didn't adhere to our ethos of being the friendly neighborhood store. I couldn't figure it out. And then Terry, who's the CEO, was the then CEO of Macy's, took me out for lunch at the Hilton Midtown with Eric Schmidt. Eric Schmidt's the CEO, is the chairman of Google. And by the way, sidebar, one of the most exciting lunches of my life. He was telling me about, how they're thinking about the world, opening up people's brains, lacing them with computers. I mean, they were able, Google, they have a business called DeepMind, and they're thinking who far out in the future, how we're going to populate Mars. I mean, that's all fixed already. I mean, deeper than that. They've already figured out how Mars is going to, it's all done, and they're on to the next thing. But what I realized at that lunch at the New York Hilton Midtown with Terry and Eric Schmidt was that the Hilton New York Midtown is really a place for convening of some of the greatest minds in the world. And I really sort of hit on why I really wanted to have a store there at the Hilton Midtown. They had this incredible glass box space, which some people here have seen. I did a little bit more research. There's 1.2 million visitors to that hotel internationally every year. And I also learned that 6th Avenue, end to end, has the least vacancies of any avenue in New York City. And so we decided we were going to make this our hub for all kinds of innovation. Innovation for men's products. We're going to start to experiment more with men's products. And we launched our men's facial there, which people here are working on now. It was going to be an expanded hub for our naturals pilot, more natural products. And of course, the thing that I know that you most excited about was our Bluemercury Connect mirror, which we really pioneered this idea of bagless shopping, which we were the first people in the world to do that. We have a Bluemercury mirror where it's the first of its kind, where you can scan a barcode, you get real-time reviews, videos about the product. You can actually, has the technology where you can have a product delivered to you anywhere on the island of Manhattan in under an hour. And some of the tests have ran as short as half an hour. And so imagine a world where you can, and this really just beats Amazon at their game, where you can be at your office and you run into a black tie at the Met Gala and you need a lipstick. Oh my God, I forgot my lipstick. And you can click a button, one click, and you can have someone meet you on the road, drop off a lipstick to you on the road. And so this is where we're continuing to experiment.
So are you guys hiring, by the way? Because there's a few people in the audience who have sort of the AI.
We're always, well, hey, our head of Vice President of Human Resources, Raquel's right here. So go see her. We're always hiring.
Okay, there you go. Okay, guys.
Always hiring. We are a constant hiring machine. Our company is growing. So
with the mirror, though, the AI mirror, you guys are still testing that out, right? In the flagship store, is the plan to eventually disseminate these AI mirrors?
Yeah, we're still testing the mirror. It's still in beta testing. It works. We're going to deploy it in our West Coast flagship. That decision has been made. We're opening up on Melrose Avenue in LA, which will be our West Coast flagship. Very excited about Melrose, and I love that neighborhood. We're going to launch the mirror there, and then if it continues to work and all the testing, we're going to have enhanced capabilities, and we're considering now rolling it out to all the stores in the country.
Are there like startups or any other ideas that you are surveying, I guess? Like, are you open to like meeting startups who are working on some of these ideas?
Absolutely, of course we are.
All right, so AI, how about IoT stuff?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So we're always interested in talking to people. Anybody wants to come talk to me, I'd love to talk to you about some of the technology that you guys, anyone here is working on. I know some people here today have got billion-dollar valuations on their companies already, so very exciting.
Yeah.
So we'd love to be talking to anybody who's got these great ideas.
So I wanted to ask you, when you sold Bluemercury to Macy's, how did you feel? What was going through your mind? Like, I mean, was it bittersweet? What was it? Like, what were you feeling?
It's very emotional.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an emotional time for me. I mean, it's, I don't know what this feeling is yet because my children are so young, but really probably akin to seeing your children going off to college. I mean, this was, and leaving your house. And so, it was a concern. And we were concerned, and we were very emotional about it. But the great thing was Macy's was an incredible partner for us. Mm-hmm. And the first meeting we had with Terry after we sold the business, well, we actually spent the whole night. The night when the transaction closed, we spent that entire night force ranking everyone in the entire industry, called every single person through midnight around the world, people in Germany, everyone that we had to make this announcement to. And then the next morning, we had a meeting with Terry, and Terry said the most important thing for me is that you stay away from Macy's. Why? Because the secret sauce that you created at Bluemercury, we do not want to have an impact, because if we invade that culture, what did we get? We didn't get anything. And so you have to understand that the nature of big companies is to eat their children. They eat their young. That's what they do. They can't help it. That's what they do. And Terry was an incredible partner, and he really pushed us to continue to swim in our own lane, really gave us the independence to flex our entrepreneurial muscles and continue to run the business. 3 years later, I'm still running the company. I make the decisions. They give us a bucket of money every year. Obviously, we report up to the mothership. Things are different. Obviously, we work for a Fortune company. We have hard closes every month. We have to file 10-Qs. We're a public company. We're under scrutiny. We have blackout periods where we can't talk to the media or do events like this. But really, it's been an incredible experience. And really, not much has changed, except we're really able to work. This is really the best part for me. I'm able to work with resources I probably never could have ever imagined I've had running my own company without a Fortune 100.
Actually, that was my next topic I wanted to talk about, was this culture. So what was the culture of Bluemercury pre-acquisition, and then was there a change? I know you talked a little bit about it, but let's be honest though, it's like a big company is buying a smaller company for a reason. So either they want to get some of their culture, some of their their thinking process, and really the culture of that company to be sort of disseminated into the bigger company, or going downstream, right, where they're putting the Macy's mandate into this company.
I think that the Bluemercury culture hasn't really changed. Obviously, the company's gotten a lot bigger. Okay. So we've gotten a lot bigger, and so that is an emotional thing for me, which is I used to know every single person by name. I love the small startup environment. That's, my favorite place to be is 2 to 10 million. That's where my expertise is. I love, maybe 2 to 50 million, let's say. It's really my wheelhouse. This company's gotten dramatically bigger. I can't say what the numbers are because we're publicly traded. We don't break out our numbers. So the company's got dramatically bigger, but the culture hasn't changed. And I think because Maurel and I still work at the company, and so we really act as a prophylactic around the business to keep it protected from the mothership. And I think that once the entrepreneurs are gone out of these companies, things can change, because now the mothership really has nothing to keep it from reaching in. And again, it does have those tendencies, right? I mean, these are people running companies like General Electric, not the CEO, but mid-level managers have big personalities they want to achieve. And you can imagine they want to get their hands on, this young toy, this Bluemercury toy, which is what we really are. We're very small compared to the mothership. It is a $27 billion company. But we've really managed to keep the culture the same. And I try to be around as much as possible. People say I'm not around as much as I should be, and I'm always trying to make myself accessible. And, I really want to be there present. I think as long as I'm at the company, I think that the company really will continue to remain entrepreneurial. I hope.
I really like how Macy's is using Bluemercury as sort of like a lab, right? The inventory, the innovation tech hub. Because, we had James Patterson of Capital One Labs, and they sort of, the labs is basically the R&D. And they've done some really cool, made some really cool products. And so, I think Macy's was trying to treat Bluemercury the same way, right? Yeah,
we're nimble. We can move quicker than them. But Macy's is a pretty amazing company. A little fact people don't know. First of all, 1 out of every 2 Americans shopped at a Macy's last year. They're pretty impressive. And Macy's is the 5th largest e-commerce company in America. People don't know that. They do like over $5 billion in e-commerce sales. So they have a huge West Coast technology lab. They compete for talent with Amazon, Yahoo, and Google, and they actually warehouse themselves in downtown San Francisco. And that omni-channel business is separate from the mothership Macy's in New York, and that's how they stay so nimble. So they're very good at their business.
So I'm sure they're always talking with you to ask, to foresee the future. So my next question to you would be, I mean, we're in a room full of startups here. How many startups are in the cosmetic industry or fashion? Okay, so question is like, what sort of mega trends do you see? What is it? Mega trends that you see that might be insightful for these startups here?
So 3 mega trends I see for us, I think, are number one, social media shopping is going to continue to dominate. And I call that Bluemercury's golden thread to purchase. Clients, this is the Bluemercury golden thread to purchase. Clients are going Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and then coming into Bluemercury and buying. So I would say 3 years ago, 90% of our customers said that they were influenced by traditional advertising. Today it's down to about 30% and still sinking. And so this whole sort of gap is being picked up by social media. I have friends of mine now that say they don't even go online anymore. They only shop from Instagram. So this is a big change. And so what's going to happen is, 10 years ago, you would say, hey, we'd have an advertisement say, go, an advertisement in the magazine would say, go to Bluemercury and buy our fabulous products there. But now you can just click on the QR code. The ads actually become the store. Well, that means the store has to become the media. And that's what we're seeing, this big trend. And so we have to become more animated in store. And the stores is sort of, I call this role reversal. I think the second trend I'm going to see is speed. This is why we launched bagless shopping at Flagship, and why people are talking about drone delivery, and these are things that we're thinking about. The average attention span of a human being is 8 seconds. The average attention span of a goldfish is 9 seconds. So, speed is going to be becoming increasingly more important. And I think the third big trend we're going to see, which is actually counterintuitive, is that densification is going to lead to localization. I was in New York recently in the rain, and I had to go from 5th Avenue to 6th Avenue. I hailed a cab, 1 block in the rain. It took me half an hour. People are going to shop in their neighborhoods, where they live their lives. Stores are not going away. The smart retailers are going to realize that actually stores are actually their most powerful asset, and the ones I think that can harness that and do it in a smart way really can win. I think one other trend I would just say generally in the beauty trend that we're seeing, which is this interesting dichotomy of people want to have these natural products but want to be Instagram ready in this sort of selfie generation. People are out, we have clients coming in from Malibu saying, yeah, I'm going mountain biking. I need to have my lipstick and my eyebrows and everything ready for me to go, but I need to look natural, and I want to use natural products. And so this is really another big mega trend we're seeing is people want to be, everyone's a celebrity, everybody's on YouTube, got to be camera ready. People realize their image is forever, but they also want to use natural products and look natural.
So, obviously, you were kind of talking about the future of Bluemercury when you talked about megatrends. So, where do you see Bluemercury in the next 5 years? How many stores do you what do you have a target of how many stores you're going to open and what those stores are going to look like?
Geez, do I work for a public company? Am I allowed to give out those targets? Look, I think there's an opportunity for thousands of stores for Bluemercury, both in America and worldwide. And for me, my mission is not complete. I recently saw an interesting story about Coca-Cola, and they said that they were in Africa, and there's still where people have to go from village to village and of more than 5 miles where you can't get a Coca-Cola. And they said until there's a Coca-Cola in every single village in Africa, we're not done our job. McDonald's says the Golden Arches is more ubiquitous and more well-known than the Cross. And so for me, I got a lot of room to grow between me and where McDonald's is, or where I am, and where Coca-Cola is. And so I think that we can put a Bluemercury in every single town, every sort of real town in America today. And for me, I'd love to make these luxury brands ubiquitous and available for everybody in America. So we're going to continue to open more stores. I think there's no limit to how many stores we can own. We're going to continue to launch more proprietary brands and a house of brands and expand the current brands we have. But I think I tell our teams, I don't know exactly, and in terms of what brands we carry, I don't know exactly what the future holds, and I don't know exactly what brands we'll carry in our stores in the next even 3 to 5 years. But I know that we'll always be true to our mission, which is being the best in the world at giving beauty advice. I think that is a niche that we've carved out for ourselves. And that's what really separates us from the pack. So what we actually sell isn't as important as our secret sauce and our culture. And that is really a defensible position for us and a moat that we've built around our client. This idea of monopoly of our client. and how we've retained our client and why we continue. By the way, last year was the best year in Bluemercury's history. So everyone's saying the retail is dying. I mean, I couldn't be further from the truth. I would say that the rumors of retail's death are greatly exaggerated because we had the best year that the company's ever had last year.
So we're going to open up to Q&A. I think we have probably time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. So I'm going to open up. So first of all, who is any VIP or city pass members that want to ask?
I just want to thank him because I always stay at the event and inevitably I leave half of my makeup. So now that I know you're right down the street.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so we can open up. So you had a question? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, your success story is amazing, and thank you for sharing it with us today. You talked about the power of a name, Starbucks, Bluemercury. Can you talk a little bit more about branding and the inspiration behind the name Bluemercury, and whether you surrounded yourselves with a consultant or whether it was just kind of a, just happenstance?
Yeah. So, interesting story. So, one of our investors, obviously the great Steve Case, who spoke here before, founder of AOL, was one of our first investors, and he absolutely hated the name Bluemercury. And we were crestfallen over that. In fact, the truth, I've never told that many people, that he sent me out to Neiman Marcus and Tyson's Corner, and I interviewed like about 7 ladies about what they thought about the name. And by the 7th person, I said, nah. William from England said it best. A rose by any other name would smell as sweet. And what my feeling was that rather than, he wanted us to call Barry's Beauty Shop or Marla Beauty Store. This is what the mindset was. And what I felt was I'd rather create a company that had a name that didn't mean anything. Why? Because then the company would have a name really be the sum of the attributes attributed to it by its customers. And so, people ask about, does anyone here know who Starbuck was? And some people know. Does anyone know who Starbuck was? Who was Starbuck? Correct. So that's why you have the mermaid, the 2-tailed mermaid on the cup. But today you associate Starbuck, you think coffee, but it's really a character, a sailor on a boat from the Herman Melville's Moby Dick. Is that right, Herman Melville? Did I say that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but the truth is, so where the name Bluemercury came from, so in the end, that was the name that we chose. Blue was Marla's, people thought it was Barry and Marla, all these things, but it wasn't. Blue was Marla's favorite color growing up. And when we started the company, we were giving out samples. We used to do something called dramming. So we would take samples, squirt them into a little bottle, and the name of the company was Bluemercury Apothecary Spa. That was what we called it, because we were like an apothecary. We were giving out prescriptions. Here, take this twice a day, rub it on your skin. This is what we were doing, and we were giving all this information out to our clients, so much so that when my older brother came down from Philadelphia to visit, he goes, you're going to go bankrupt. We actually almost did, but for different reasons. But we ran out of money. But I said, why? He said, because you're always giving out free samples and free information. You're never going to make any money. And Mercury was the god of information. So Bluemercury, and this is how the name came about. The truth is, we opened up our 4th store in my neighborhood where I grew up. And a guy called me up, a friend of mine from high school, and said, hey, remember, we're a teeny little business. I can barely lift my head out of the sand to even think for a second. I could barely even answer my phone. I was so inundated with work. And he called me up and said, hey, is it true that you started a company called Bluemercury? I was like, yeah. We're like, what did we do wrong? Are we in trouble? What did we do? He says, oh my God, I love the name. It's cool. I called Marla Ray. I was like, oh my God, you're not going to believe it. She said, what? I said, we're cool. We people, for so long, we were so upset about the name. People didn't like the name. It was Blueberry Moon, Blue Planet. Nobody knew what to make of the name. Of course, today, fast forward 200 stores later, we're building sort of an iconic national luxury brand.
So we would get another question in, but we're over. Time's run out.
I'm a talker.
But I have 2 last questions.
Easy ones, I hope.
The last one's is probably the most important, but second most important is, and this is actually really relevant because your son's here. So what would be, if you could rewind time, say 15, 20 years ago, what would be the best piece of advice you would have given yourself?
I would say 3 pieces of advice and I give, and I have sort of a lesson series I've done. It was in Forbes, but I would say 3 lessons I would give to myself or remind myself. Number 1, Droom, don't run out of money. That is the most important lesson. Cash flow is the lifeblood of every business. And you got to raise money when you can get it, because when you need it, you'll never getting that money. That's number 1, Droom, don't run out of money. Number 2 is this idea of version 0 to version 1. Starting a business is really hard. It's like eating glass. You got to understand that. Again, version 1 to version 2 is also really hard, but nowhere near as buggy as version 0 to version 1. You have to sprint your first year. But if you can survive, which most companies don't, but if you can survive the first year and you're sprinting, you'll get the hang of it, and then you'll ease into the marathon. And I think really the most important piece of advice I can give every entrepreneur, so many friends of mine say, well, I don't want to start a company because I can't afford it, and should I have a family? And for me, I always say, you can't do it all, but you can have it all, which is that you can build a family, have a life, and build a company. And I realize my little son is here. Stand up, Luke, and say hi. He's living proof, literally living proof that you can build a family and build a company at the same time. In fact, we opened, I think like our first child we had at store 5, our second child at store 8, and then stores like 10 through 14, we had Luke. We actually hit family scale up right in the throes of company scale up. And so it is possible, and I think that is something that's really important. Is you got to live your life. It's not just about your business. And the truth is, I think having a family really creates luck. I really felt like I never got as lucky as I did until I, married my wife and had a family.
And then the most important question.
Uh-oh.
I ask all of our speakers.
What did Steve Case say? That's what I want to know. He's my idol. Go ahead.
Steve Case said George Washington. He was the historical figure.
Okay.
Yeah. Who is your favorite superhero and why?
That's easy. That's easy. My favorite superhero is Ironman. Why? Because he is a modern day knight in shining armor. This is a guy who is an inventor, an entrepreneur, a brilliant business guy, but actually has no superpowers. Right? He's not really some guy with superpowers like Spider-Man or Superman. He's a real human, flesh and blood, an innovator. So that's why I would choose Ironman.
So obviously you told me this answer, and so we got you Ironman with the Startup Grind.
Startup Grind Ironman.
Ladies and gentlemen, Barry Beck, thanks for coming out.
Thank you so much.